Today I'm going to make something that my mom used to make called Italian Loaf Rustica, and I'm going to do it in a 12-inch Dutch oven. To make this easier, I'm going to just spray some spray oil on the inside of this thing just to grease it up a little bit. And then I've got one of these cast iron Dutch oven liners made by Coleman. And this, when you bake in a Dutch oven, things tend to turn out a little bit better if you use one of these liners than if you don't. You can make these liners with parchment paper, and there's instructions all over the internet on how to do that. But I have a box of these, and I'm just going to use these. In this bowl, I've got a high hydration dough. It's a yeasted dough. I'll put the recipe up. It's pretty high hydration. It's less of a dough than you've probably made before. Not really like a bread dough, more like a focaccia dough. And I'm taking about half of that, and I'm going to spread it around the bottom of this pan here. It's really easy to make. You just have to stir it up in a bowl. It's got a little cornmeal in it. Pretty tasty. Got the dough spread out pretty well. I'm going to put some mozzarella on the bottom of that. For baking, I like this Stella low moisture whole milk mozzarella. You can buy it at Sam's Club. It's pretty cheap for a big huge bag. Makes great pizza and other stuff. On top of the cheese, I've got a pound of Italian sausage with about a half of a diced onion and 3 cloves of garlic that I've browned up. I'm going to put that in next. Next I've got some roasted red pepper. You can buy this canned. I think Mancini makes it, or you can just roast your own. It's really easy. I just took a red bell pepper and roasted it in the oven at 350 until it looked done. Now I'm going to add some sliced mushrooms. This is just a small can. You can put pretty much any kind of a pizza topping on here you want, and you'll get something pretty tasty. Then I've got about a cup of marinara. I'm going to show how to make this while this is baking. Then I'm going to just put a little bit more cheese on. Now I'm going to put the rest of my dough on, and one last step and we're ready to go here. Now I just have some sesame seeds. I'm going to just sprinkle it over the top, and we'll cover this up and let it rise for an hour, and I'll get my coals going here. Okay, so I've got some coals that are ready here. I've got my Dutch oven loaded up with my tasty treat. It's risen all the way, and it's time to cook it. Now, why am I cooking this under the table? Well, it's kind of drizzling out, and the only place that's dry on my porch without having to mess with it is right underneath this table. So I'm going to put a few coals down on the bottom here. That's probably enough. It's a judgment call. And when I've got a little shovel here. When you're cooking with these, you have to check them pretty often, just to make sure that you're getting even heat and you're not burning something. So that's about all I'm going to put on the bottom. Set that right on top there. Now I'm going to go ahead and put a bunch of coals on top. That's about the right number, I think. I might have to add a little bit more here, but I've got some more in my pot. Actually, maybe I'll just add them and then take them off if it gets too hot. I'm going to spread them out a little bit, get some nice even heat. And I'm going to come back and check on this in about 10 minutes to make sure we're doing okay, it's not too hot, etc. Now I've got a big pot with that's been heating over medium heat with no olive oil. I'm going to add my olive oil. I like to add a healthy amount. It just gives the marinara a nice flavor. To this I'm going to add about a half of a diced onion. I chop it up pretty fine so that I don't have big onion chunks in there, otherwise my kids won't eat it. And I've got 5 cloves of pressed garlic that I'm going to put in there. And I'll just saute that for a couple minutes. I don't want that to burn, just to soften just a little bit. Okay, it's been 10 minutes, just about. I'm going to check on this, see how it's doing. Oh yeah, it's cooking. I'm going to give this a little bit of a spin, just to keep heat somewhat even. I'm also going to give this a spin. That'll just move around some of the heat on the bottom. And I'm going to come back in another 10 minutes. Now I'm going to add in my tomatoes. It's difficult to do this without splashing stuff all over the stove, so I'm going to try it. Get ready for some laughs here. Hey, what do you know? Didn't happen too bad. You can use smaller quantities of tomatoes to make this marinara. I like to use these big cans again for price, but then another thing is these cans make great billy pots for cooking over a campfire. Now I'm going to add a little fresh ground black pepper. And then this is going to simmer, come to a boil, reduce heat, simmer for about 15 minutes, and I'll show you my secret bullet next step for fabulous marinara. Okay, smell something cooking. Let's see what we got here. Ooh, a little hot. So that just goes to show you have to check this stuff. So I'm going to let some of the coals off the bottom here. I think we're plenty done on top. I'm going to add a couple more coals to the bottom there. And I'm just going to add a couple back in around the edges here. A few more minutes and we should be done. Now this is the secret trick to my marinara. And I've taken the tomatoes out of our pot and left the tomato juice and sauce behind, and I put them in this blender. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, sometimes these things have a tendency to go very, very wrong, so I try to just give myself a little bit of extra insurance. I'm just going to pulse it real quick and boom, like that, and hopefully chop some of these tomatoes up a little bit. And that's it. Now I'll take a good chunk of this and pour it back into my saucepan. I like kind of a little bit chunkier marinara. It just makes me feel like I'm eating something a little more substantial. So that's about the texture and consistency I want. I left half of this in here, and here's the real trick to my marinara. I figured this out kind of by accident, but what I like to do is I like to take this and blend the heck out of it. And what will happen is it'll turn pink, and when I add it back to my sauce, it makes a real rich, kind of creamy tasting marinara, only there's no dairy in there. I think it probably has something to do with the olive oil that I added, and it's almost making a mayonnaise without eggs. But anyway, well, I'll show you what that looks like here. It's got a real kind of pink orangey color to it. I'm going to add that back into my marinara, and I'm going to stir it up and kind of show you what that looks like. You can see where I've added back the real high blended stuff. You can see it's oranger there than it is red there. I'm going to stir it up here, and it just gives this great creamy kind of goodness to your marinara if you do it that way. And I'm going to declare that done. Now it's going to continue to cook a little bit once I take it off the coals, and I'm just going to let it sit about 10 more minutes and firm up in there. Okay, so I'm going to confess that sometimes getting things out of a Dutch oven can lead to an epic fail. So we'll see how I do here. I just kind of slide something underneath here and have something ready to transfer it to. Lift and plop. So far so good. The only thing left to do is to make warm up some marinara to put over our loaf rustica there. Look, there's no mess in the pot except for a little bit of sausage here. You can basically wipe it out with a paper towel and put it away.